Alright, and welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to quickly kind of bring you up to speed with arc length. Now this might be something that you've seen before, but I just want to kind of quickly revisit this topic because we are going to be using it a little bit. Alright, so what is arc length? Well, arc length is the distance. Arc length is the distance. Arc length is the distance between 2 points. Between 2 points on a section of a curve. 2 points. I'll say along a section of a curve. And what does that mean? All right. Well, the way we generally use this is with circles. Okay. So let's say I have a circle. Let's finish it. Between 2 points along a curve, let's say I wanted to know the length between these 2 points. So this would be the arc length, the kind of distance along the circle between those 2 points. Okay. Now we've actually done, or you actually have done stuff like this quite frequently. If we really think about this, if you think about one thing that you've talked about a lot is circumference of a circle. Circumference of a circle. Well, what is the circumference of a circle? The circumference of a circle is a distance traveled along the entire outside. So it's literally the arc length of the entire circle. And what is the circumference of a circle? Well, it's 2 pi r. It's 2 pi times the radius of the circle, or I know some people refer to it as pi d, the diameter times pi, because 2r is the diameter. 2 times the radius is the diameter. Okay, and the reason I bring that up is because circumference is actually kind of an arc length of sorts. Okay, it's just that you're doing the entire circle. The way we do it is generally a portion of the circle. So, for example, let's use this circle here, and let's say that's the center. And I want to know the distance between this point and let's say this point, and I know that the radius is 6. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to find, in this problem, I'm going to want to find this whole distance here. So let me color that in real good. So I want to know what this entire distance is here. Where circumference is for the entire circle, I just want a portion of it. Okay, so we're actually going to be using the circumference formula a little bit. Circumference is for the whole circle. So if I did 2 pi times 6, that's telling me the arc length of the entire circle, the distance traveled around the entire circle. But I just want this distance here. And to get that distance, I need to know the central angle, what this angle is right here. And for this angle, let's say that's 150 degrees. Well, if the circumference is a measure of the whole circle, and that's found by doing 2 pi r, but I'm just trying to find the distance traveled along this portion of the circle, that would be 2 pi r times the kind of ratio of this part of the circle. Well, if the entire circle is 360 degrees, but I only want the arc length traveled along 150 degrees of that circle, I would just multiply the circumference by that ratio of 150 degrees over 360 degrees. And that's really all arc length is. Arc length, the formula for arc length, I'll say arc length is S. The arc length formula is 2 pi r times the central angle in degrees over 360 degrees. That C stands for central angle. Okay, and this is going to tell us what the arc length is. So for this particular problem, the arc length traveled along this portion of the circle. Well, the entire circumference would actually be 12 pi, which is roughly about 37.7. But for this just tiny portion of the circle, I'd do 2 pi times 6 times 150 over 360, and that would end up becoming about 15 0.7, and that would end up being the arc length traveled along this portion. So this length would be about 15.7. All right, let's just try one more just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let's see if I can do a better circle. All right, here we go. Not that great, but whatever. Let's just finish it off here. Yeah. All right, so let's say that this circle had a radius, let's say 10. Let's say the radius was 10. And I wanted to know the distance from this point all the way around. So let's say this point here. So this distance would also be 10. And let's say that this angle here is about 280 degrees. Okay. Well, what I'm trying to find in this particular problem is this whole distance here. Look at my awesome tracing abilities. Wow, amazing. What I want to know is what this total distance is traveled here, okay? And the way I would do that is I would use my arc length formula. So the arc length is going to be equal to the circumference of the circle, which would be 2 pi r. In this case, the radius is 10. Remember, that would be the arc length of the entire circle, the distance traveled around the entire circle. But I just want this little portion here. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply it by that ratio. Well, I'm only going 280 of the 360 degrees, okay? So the circumference of the circle would actually be 20 pi, which works out to roughly 62.8. But if I'm only traveling this portion of the circle, that would actually come out to about 48.9, okay? 48.9, and that is arc length. Okay, it's not the most challenging thing in the world. You just got to kind of remember it's circumference times the portion of that circle. That's what this little part is here. That's kind of the ratio or the portion of the circle. Proportion, you've heard that word before. All right, so it's a ratio or the proportion of that particular section of the circle. All right, that is arc length. Until our next video, goodbye.